Hola, soy Paul Dourge. A continuación te invito a ver la entrevista que le hice el 19 de julio de este año 2021 a un gran guitarrista funk, cantante impresionante, autor-compositor, director musical de la ciudad de Las Vegas. Se llama Jerry Lopez. Jerry fue el fundador de una banda que es una leyenda, uno de los secretos mejor guardados de la ciudad de Las Vegas, Santa Fe. Hoy se llaman Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns porque le agregaron toda una sección de vientos. En esta entrevista, Jerry nos va a contar anécdotas, pero no solo eso. Nos va a revelar sus secretos de cómo le gusta a él grabar la guitarra eléctrica en el estudio. También, a quienes son cantantes, nos va a contar cuáles son sus secretos, sus ejercicios de entrenamiento previo a salir al escenario. Nos va a hablar de sus producciones musicales, anécdotas de vida. No te la puedes perder. Es larga, pero vale la pena. Con ustedes, Jerry Lopez. Buenas noches, Buenos Aires, buenas noches, Argentina, Buenos Aires, el mundo entero hispanoparlante. Hoy tenemos un invitado extraordinario en nuestro programa. Jerry Lopez, si tuviese que decir un poco cuál es su currículum, tendría que estar hasta mañana contándoles no solo lo extraordinario que es como cantante, como guitarrista y el gran líder, director musical que es. Señoras y señores, con ustedes Jerry Lopez. Hola Jerry. Gracias por aceptar la invitación.
My pleasure to be here. Yes.
Bueno, antes que nada, antes de ir a mi primera pregunta, yo quiero contarle a nuestro público cómo fue que te conocí, cómo fue que yo lo conocí
Sí.
a Jerry Lopez. Yo estaba muy recién llegado en la ciudad, a la ciudad de Los Ángeles, después que había terminado la gira del amor, después del amor de Fito Páez, me mudé a Los Ángeles, esto fue en el año 94, a principios del año 94. Y audicioné para tocar en una banda de una cantante extraordinaria de Los Ángeles que se llama Cecilia Noel. Y en esa banda había unos músicos geniales, Muñigo Jackson, David Widom en el piano, Luis Conte también en percusión, Tracy Bode en la batería y un tremendo saxofonista cantante, Clito Escobedo. Y ahí lo conozco a Clito Escobedo, tocando en la banda de Cecilia Noel. Y un día Clito Escobedo me llama y me dice, te recomendé para tocar en un grupo de funk, Latin funk de Las Vegas, que es un grupo extraordinario, me dice, y tienen un contrato de 7 semanas, en el Hotel Río. Y me fui a Las Vegas en mi auto sin audicionar. Es decir, que Jerry me contrató sin audicionar. Y nunca me voy a olvidar de esto. Yo tenía que llegar a una hora determinada. El viaje hay que cruzar el desierto del Mojave. Hay que cruzar de Los Ángeles a Las Vegas, hay que cruzar todo el desierto. Son 500 kilómetros. Y yo estaba con una camioneta Volvo donde atrás tenía mi amplificador Ampeg, una heladera Ampeg, porque yo era un nerd. I was a nerd en Las Vegas y me iba con una heladera Ampeg a los casinos. Y tenía que llegar a una hora determinada para ensayar con Jerry y de ahí ir a darnos una ducha y al hotel a tocar, al hotel casino. Y en el viaje, en el medio del desierto, el motor de mi Volvo recalentó y me quedé cerca de Bakersfield y en esa época no teníamos celulares, porque no había teléfonos portables en esa época. Esto fue en enero del 95. Y me llevaron, o sea, llamé en la ruta, había unos teléfonos, me vinieron a remolcar de una estación de servicio y me llevaron a Bakersfield, a un taller mecánico, y yo de ahí llamé de un teléfono público a Jerry o a Clito, no me acuerdo a quién de los dos lo llamé, pero estoy en Bakersfield atrasado, y yo me acuerdo, bueno, finalmente me arreglaron el auto, y llegué cuando ya estaba oscureciendo a la sala de ensayo, y en esa época vos, Jerry, todavía fumabas cigarrillo. Fue unas últimas veces que fumaste, creo, porque después no te fumar más. And when I arrived to the recording place, to the rehearsal place, vos estabas afuera, you were smoking nervously, of course. I mean, ¿dónde está el bajista? Y ahí entramos y tocamos, y yo me había aprendido las canciones, y fue de ahí ensayar. It's hi, nice to meet you, to all the band. Y me fui a casa de Clito Escobedo a ducharme, a ponerme el traje y de ahí a debutar en el Río. Y esto fue así, fue un contrato de 7 semanas y después terminé quedándome en Las Vegas 7 años. So
Ah,
I went
sí,
there with a 7 week contract and ended up there staying for 7 years.
that's right.
So así es como lo conocí a Jerry Lopez. You speak perfect Spanish. Should we continue
Oh,
in Spanish or in English?
no, my Spanish is not perfect.
It's very good.
Si podemos continuar en inglés, será mejor para mí porque así.
Fantastic. But as you can see, como pueden ver ustedes, hablan muy bien español. So, Jerry es de nacionalidad norteamericana, pero la mayor parte de su familia venían de México, ¿correcto? ¿Tus abuelos venían de México? Your grandparents came from Mexico?
Tiene un abuelo que vino de México, bueno, pero los otros vinieron, bueno, en los 1600s
Oh,
de España. Entonces, mi familia es una mezcla de indio-americano, Native Americans, y españoles y un poquito de mexicano. En Nuevo México así es la mezcla de raíces y eso.
claro, porque vos sos del estado, vos naciste en Santa Fe, New Mexico, y
Sí,
entonces esos ancestros tuyos de 1600 y pico eran de una época en donde esa región era una colonia de España.
sí, cuando vinieron los conquistadores,
Claro, 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 claro. Y fundaron esas ciudades, entre ellas Santa Fe,
sí,
Santa Fe, New México. Bueno, yo
es
lo que quiero aclarar, ¿sí?
el más viejo de los Estados Unidos, Santa Fe.
La ciudad más vieja de Estados Unidos.
Sí,
Claro, claro. Fundada por los españoles.
sí.
Mira. Bueno, antes que nada voy a hacer una breve presentación de quién eres, Jerry. Jerry, voy a tirar algunos nombres. Jerry fue guitarrista de Tom Scott, de Ricky Martin, de un montón de celebridades. Fue el fundador de una de las bandas top de Las Vegas todavía hoy en día, que se llamaba en su principio Santa Fe, y luego le agregaron toda una sección de caños, de vientos, y hoy en día se llama Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns. Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns. Y contanos, vos últimamente has recibido un premio muy importante en Las Vegas. What
The
prize you just received a very important award in the Hall of
Yeah,
Fame, right? The Hall of Fame of Las Vegas.
yeah, we're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but we just the whole band just received another one from UNLV from
University of Las Vegas.
and it was given I forget what the name is. It's on the wall over here somewhere, but it was for all of our the work that we've done for the community and for our input and the things that we've done to advance music and art in the city. So
Claro, acaba de recibir, entre otros premios, un premio de la Universidad de Las Vegas por su contribución en la cultura musical, particularmente en la ciudad de Las Vegas. Tengo algunas preguntas para ti, Jerry.
sí,
So here we go with the questions. First of all, you were born in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and
sí.
in what year did you arrive to Las Vegas, and how was Las Vegas at that time? ¿Cómo era Las Vegas en esa época?
Yo llegué en como 73, 74 y the city was much different than it is now, muy diferente. And había mucha música. Todos los casinos tenían showrooms, tenían lounges, tenían y un montón de músicos grandes just amazing musicians, right? Because in the showrooms in those times, los headliners eran como Diana Ross, Tony Bennett, right? Los grandes. And y también en los lounges había grupos que eran huge. Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders,
Yes,
who Taco played with.
exactly. Jaco Pastorius used to play with
I
him.
used to see BB King in a lounge with a full band. So it was very different. There was a nothing but, of course, the DJ thing hadn't happened yet, so it was all live music. And you know, it happened to me the same way it happened to you. I came to Las Vegas to do one gig, and it ended up staying here until now. You know, so
Llegó a Las Vegas,
40,
yo también para Las Vegas en el año 73 para hacer un gig, un show, y se quedó décadas. Ya es, you are Mr. Las Vegas now.
here we are.
Es que
Yeah.
Las Vegas, I always do the comparison of Las Vegas. I do the analogy as Las Vegas being like a cruise ship that doesn't go anywhere. Es como
That's
un
right.
crucero que no va a ningún lugar. I mean, you do like, you know, I made once the calculation, una vez hice el cálculo, that we used to do sometimes more than 1,000 shows a year, que hacíamos más de 1,000 shows por año. Because
That's right.
when I started working for you at the Rio, and then we went to Desert Inn Hotel, que empecé con Jerry en el Hotel Rio, después tuvimos un contrato en el Desert Inn, y ahí hacíamos, I think we used to do 2 or 3 shows a night, but then, poco a poco, fueron agregando más shows. They started adding more, like making us work more. And I did the calculation that we used to do more than 1,000 gigs a year. Más de 1,000 shows por año hacíamos.
Oh yeah,
Gran
that was
entretenimiento.
standard for me for many, many years. We used to play Caesar's Palace on the barge, en el barco que tenía un,
I knew the barge, yeah.
and we used to play 6 shows a night, 6 sets a night,
Exactly.
and did it for years.
And for
you know.
6 days a week, because we
6
usually
days a week,
we would
one day off.
have Monday off. Like los lunes lo teníamos feriados, y si no, todo el resto del año era trabajar sin parar. Es un gran entrenamiento, claro.
We would have the whole next year booked up. So we would have contracts all the way into the following year.
Claro,
That's how-
tenía vendido el año siguiente, ya lo tenía vendido.
Sí.
Tenía ya vendido el año siguiente. Tengo entendido que después que yo me fui de Las Vegas, I understand that after I left Las Vegas, because I left Las Vegas in August 2002. Yo me fui de Las Vegas en agosto del 2002.
Sí.
And I understand that afterwards there was like an enter of DJs to the lounge, que vinieron DJs también a los lounges. Yo no
Sí.
conocí esa etapa. I didn't know that era.
Yeah, that was the transition when, you know, I think it partly it's the demographic of the people that started coming to Las Vegas, the age group and the music they were listening to. It also had to do with the corporate offices were now filled with bookkeepers and people who came from food and beverage and not real entertainment directors.
Exactly.
So they didn't really care about live music, you know, so it
No.
started shifting.
I saw the beginning of that transition when I left. Yo empecé a ver esa transición que se venía, because I do remember working at the Bellagio with Diane Diaz, para la cantante Diane Diaz, cuando yo estaba trabajando para Diane Diaz, en el Bellagio, que es uno de los hoteles más lindos de Las Vegas. I remember, me acuerdo muy bien, that in a certain moment, the directors of the casino, los directores del casino, were requesting the sound engineers to take track of how many drinks were sold per band. Pues empezaron a pedir a los ingenieros de sonido a contabilizar cuántas bebidas vendía tal banda o tal cantante. Just, yeah.
That's a great example of what happened in Las Vegas.
Yes.
The bean counters, I call them, right? The guys up in the offices who are saying every square foot in this casino has to make X amount of dollars.
Claro.
Whereas in the 70s and the 80s and even the early 90s, the entertainment directors were about bringing people into the casino and they'd give them free entertainment. And they knew that if they gave them something for free, they would get everything back.
Exactly.
So people would eat, people would, you
It's
know.
what we call here valor agregado de un producto.
Right.
En los años 70, lo que dice Jerry, es que en los años 70, los años 80 e inclusive en los años 90, cuando yo estaba en Las Vegas, que había hasta una cierta competencia, ¿no?, entre los hoteles, casinos, para ver quién tenía las mejores bandas, los mejores músicos, y era un valor agregado que se le daba al cliente, porque de todas maneras el dinero que recaudaban y recaudan en el casino es enorme. Entonces era brindarle al cliente el mejor servicio y el mejor valor agregado a través del entretenimiento y la calidad de los músicos. Yeah. So,
Y eso empezó a cambiar y el nivel se bajó del talento a lot of things changed at that point. The budgets went down, the bands got smaller. Now it was tracks with bands and DJs, it just changed.
exactly. And I do remember this. Me acuerdo en mi época, when I used to live there were no tracks in any big casino. I mean, it was forbidden. Let me tell you this. Miren, les cuento una cosa que yo a veces se lo cuento a mis alumnos y se quedan, ¿cómo? Steve Wynn, que fue el creador del Mirage, del Bellagio, del Treasure Island, no permitía que las cantantes y los cantantes estuviesen leyendo las letras.
Right.
I remember that. I mean, musicians could have a music stand. Los músicos podían tener un stand con la partitura, pero los cantantes, si no sabías la letra de memoria, no podías entrar en esos lugares.
That's right.
El nivel, that was the demand, the level of demand that they had.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I knew Steve Wynn since the 70s.
Exactly.
I knew him when he first bought the Golden Nugget. And he was, we've been friends ever since. Not close friends, but, he was one of what I call the real guys. He cared.
Well, I have to say this as a musician that I work for your band and for other projects like for Loretta Holloway, Diane Diaz. Whenever I went to a casino hotel that was run by Steve Wynn, the food for the employees were good and the working conditions were good. And I have to say this usually about Las Vegas. Tengo que decir esto de Las Vegas y en general debo decir esto de Estados Unidos. It never happened to me to do a gig and then they didn't pay me. Nunca me pasó de hacer un trabajo y que no me pagan. I mean, en Estados Unidos, when they say the check will be on Friday, you go Friday, vas el viernes y está tu cheque.
Yeah, eso es, bueno, eso pasa en Las Vegas más que en todos los Estados Unidos.
Claro.
Pero eso fue una de las cosas que nosotros, por eso nos quedamos aquí. Antes de venir a Las Vegas, we would go from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Denver, Colorado, to El Paso, Texas, to Los Angeles, and working in nightclubs where sometimes we didn't get paid. But we come through Las Vegas and all the musicians here, they were going from the Tropicana to Caesars to the Flamingo to the Desert Inn, and their check was always on time.
Yes. And at the same time, they were very demanding and very strict, eran muy estrictos with punctuality, dress code, cómo te tenías que vestir, puntualidad, en eso eran implacables, pero también cumplían con su parte del trato. Sí,
yeah.
Sí.
And for that reason, most of us who worked Las Vegas for a lot of years, it was like boot camp, right? Like Marine boot camp.
Claro.
So if you could do this in Las Vegas, you could go anywhere and do anything because we had the discipline, we had the work ethic, right? We had the preparation. We understood that, a lot of young musicians, they don't understand the basic things. They'll tell me, give me a great advice about how I should go on with my career. And I'll tell them, I'm going to tell you some simple things. And sometimes they scratch their head because I tell them, show up. It's like, well, of course, show up.
Claro. Let me translate this. Let me translate this. But I know you're going to say something after show up, which is great. That's the beginning. Like, show up on time, right? Claro.
Show up on time.
Claro. Lo que dice...
Time means get there early, and be prepared.
Claro. Claro. What else would you say to that young musician? ¿Qué otra cosa le podrías decir?
And be prepared and be a solution, not a problem, right?
Que seas una solución, no un problema.
Everybody's got problems. The people that get work are the people who provide solutions. So many times that means just showing up, being prepared, having a good attitude. I mean, that, you know what I'm saying? Many times I don't need a virtuoso on an instrument.
Claro.
I need somebody who can play the gig, but is buena onda, who's got a good vibe,
Claro.
Who's pleasant to be around, who we can have some laughs with, and is punctual and prepared.
Claro, no necesita un virtuoso él como director musical. Él necesita a alguien que sea muy idóneo y que tenga todas las otras cualidades necesarias para trabajar en equipo, in order to work
Right.
in a team, to be a
That's
team.
right.
Let me ask you this, because you know, I didn't start into like telling about your resume. No, no estuve hablando mucho de tu resume y de tu currículum, eh, pero sos una persona no solamente respetada, conocida en Las Vegas, admirada. Eh, ¿Tuviste algún momento en tu vida en el que estuviste sin un mango, sin un peso, broke completely? Have you been in your life, in your career?
Oh, yes.
How did
Yes.
you get
Oh,
out
yeah.
of that situation? ¿Cómo saliste de eso?
Oh, there have been times in my career where, and I have 5 children,
Tienes 5
and there
hijos.
were times when I had 3 little kids and there was no work. And my equipment was in the pawn shop. Now my wife,
Tenía trabajo y que tuvo que poner sus equipos en una casa de empeños.
see, and they didn't know, and they never knew, right?
Y nunca les dijo nada a sus hijos.
Yeah, nobody knew that. But yeah, there was a time I went a year without a steady gig, which is rare in Las Vegas. But during those years of transitions, right? The entertainment directors were leaving, people that I knew. I didn't know anybody in the casinos. It was a whole new thing. And so those have been, there have been many difficult times. I tell people, people see the successes and they, but there have been times that have been extremely rough. But I'm a survivor. I come from a humble background. I
Dice
can
que
live
es
that
una
way.
familia humilde y que supo transitar esos momentos sin decirle nada a sus hijos, en momentos en los que tuvo que empeñar sus instrumentos, y que fueron momentos de transición en Las Vegas, porque Las Vegas ha tenido más de un momento de transición,
Yep.
en donde cambian los directores de entretenimiento y de repente uno tenía un trabajo asegurado y se queda sin trabajo. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Love is always the answer. That's never gonna change. It's always the answer because love will conquer all. Love is the answer.
And let me ask you something that many people who write songs ask me. And
Okay.
it's maybe you have maybe you have like a way that you always work. A veces tenés como una manera de trabajar.
Mhm.
When you start a song, when you're gonna start writing a song, do you start
Mhm.
by by the lyrics or the melody, or you just start with the chords, or it's depends?
Yeah.
Cuando vas a escribir una canción, ¿tenés una tendencia a empezar con la melodía o con la letra o con los acordes? ¿O depende de la situación?
Sí, depende de la situación, depende en el proyecto. Por aquí voy a escribir. Like if I'm going to write for Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns, I generally write the funk music for that band, right? And I'll start that with either I'll get an idea on the guitar and I'll get a funk idea on the guitar, or I'll use, in my my DAW in my studio, I'll bring up I'll find a drum track that inspires me, right?
Yes.
And then I'll start doing some stuff with that. If many times if I'm writing for something else, I might pick up an acoustic guitar, I might pick up a nylon string guitar and just start playing some changes. And I've got, on my telephone, I've probably got 40 or 50 what I call little kernels, and I record everything into this thing. So I'll be driving down the road and I'll get a melody.
Cuando tenés
Right?
claro,
And so
ese
these
momento
go
de
in.
inspiración, capturás ese momento de inspiración con lo que tienes a mano, un celular, por ejemplo, ¿sí?
So, and then when it's time to create something, I go back to my folders here and I start listening to these ideas, and I'll grab one and I'll put that in my computer, and then I'll get a tempo, and then I'll put the thing under it, and then I'll just develop it from there. So it all depends. And then sometimes with lyrics, I'll get an idea for a lyric. Yeah,
I have a
you
question for you.
nunca sabe uno cuándo le va, right? When the muses are going to visit us, when something, and there are many times when I have to write, like today, right? There are times when I have to write stuff that I'm not inspired because it's business.
Yes.
There's grunt work music, but when I'm writing for my band or for myself, I never know when inspiration is going to hit me. But I remember someone asked a famous writer, they said, so do you wait for inspiration to hit you to write? And he said, yeah. He said, fortunately, it hits at 9 o'clock every morning. So, right.
Exactly. Claro, there's something called craftsmanship. Hay una cosa que es
That's
el
right.
oficio de saber escribir música. Sí, sí.
That's right.
Excelente. Gracias, Jerry. I have one question for you about guitar. Actually,
Okay.
it's a double question. Es una pregunta doble.
Okay.
Hay una creciente necesidad en la Argentina ahora, hay una corriente de músicos que están tocando funk, porque la Argentina tradicionalmente tiene su música, el folclore argentino, el tango, que es también música argentina, particularmente oriunda de Buenos Aires, y hay ahora, hay muy buen rock en Argentina, hay muy buen jazz en Argentina, pero en este momento, por suerte, porque a mí me fascina el funk, está creciendo el público y los músicos que están tocando funk. Y hay una cosa que es muy específica de la guitarra funk, que no la quiero decir yo, quiero que la digas vos.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to record in a studio a clean guitar,
Yep.
how would you go about it? Do you absolutely need an amp, or you like also the sound through line, ir por línea? ¿Te gusta grabar por línea o necesitas un amplificador?
I don't like to go direct with an electric guitar into a board.
No le
Do you know what I'm saying?
a la consola.
I like the natural compression that'll happen in a tube amp.
Okay.
I like the effect of a speaker on a microphone, right? And there are certain software programs that I use to record guitar with.
Dice que le gusta pasar por un amplificador y que hay algunos plugins, algunos softwares,
Sí.
simuladores de amplificador que le gustan. But we are talking about still a clean sound, ¿no? Estamos hablando de un sonido limpio.
I'm talking about a clean sound.
It feels. While politicians brag about a paperwork solution. Another life I said, another team. I'm waiting for somebody to lead the revolution. So I dance. It's a system of survival. SOS. I'm dancing. System of. System of survival. Future revival.
And right now, before we got on the call here, I was recording a guitar track using I don't know if you can see it. I'll turn this a little bit, but I've got a Mesa Boogie head there, and I got a Rivera head on top of it. And in the back there is a vocal booth. It's an isolation booth, and inside that booth I have cabinets. That's right. And a lot of times I'll go between using that, and I use a software program. It's like Guitar Rig, sort of.
Software que se llama Guitar Rig.
But there's a better one that I use, and it's called S-Gear, S-Gear.
S-Gear.
Yeah, S-G-E-A-R, right? S-Gear by Scuffman, and it is the most authentic thing that I found for recording guitar, and particularly if I use my Strat, I've got my thing here in front of me. Okay, so hang on one sec.
Yes.
Grab the guitar. So here's my trusty Strat, right, that I've had all these years.
I remember that guitar.
This is my trusty Strat. It's what I go into battle with, right? And earlier, I was using a Les Paul for a rock and roll track that I'm recording for somebody else. But I'm going to give you an example of this. Right. Right.
You have a clean sound with a small distortion that it's like slight
Just a slight bit of gain. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll take that off. I haven't used this today, so it's a little out of tune. So it's pretty clean. Right? So that's what I'll do. And so in a studio, if I don't have my software, I like to go into an amp. And sometimes if I'm going to have a pedal board, I might use a little bit of compression in front of it. I use the EMG, the SA pickups.
Los micrófonos EMG, y dijo que a veces también lo que va a usar un compresor.
Right. And these pickups have a natural sort of a compression to them. I'm not sure.
Pero que siente que ya esos micrófonos EMG tienen como una compresión ya del micrófono. Genial, genial. Con respecto a la cadena de efectos, let's say that you have compressor, 4 effects: compressor, wah-wah, distortion, and reverb, and a pedal with a reverb. Do you have a choice, a preference in the chain? ¿Tenés una preferencia para la cadena de esos pedales, de esos 4 pedales?
Yeah, definitely. I go into the compressor. I go into the wah-wah first.
Primero va el wah-wah, claro.
Go into the wah-wah. Then I would go into the compressor. Then I would go into any of the modulated effects, chorus, flanger, that sort of those kind of effects, and leave the delays and the reverbs for the end of the chain.
Y deja para el final de la cadena al reverb. Entonces iría primero al wah-wah, después al compresor, después a los efectos de modulación como flanger o chorus, y recién al final el reverb. Genial.
That's right.
Genial.
Yeah.
Jerry, ¿qué consejo le podrías dar? O no sé si es un consejo, si podés compartir un tip, si vos antes de cantar en camarín, ¿tenés algún ejercicio para calentar tus cuerdas vocales?
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to share, a couple of things, right? One of them I got a few years ago from a speech therapist. And,
consejo que dio un terapeuta de speech therapist, un terapeuta de habla.
So this is a stir straw, like for coffee or a drink.
Una pajita, un sorbete para, sí.
Right. What you do is you take this straw, and the exercise I'm going to do was developed by a trumpet player. But what it does is it expands the esophagus and the larynx gently without hurting it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in upward modulating swoops, like woo, 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 woo.
Este es un ejercicio que fue desarrollado por un trompetista y lo que hace es que expande el esófago y la laringe.
Sí. Okay. So you want to put all the air through the straw like this.
¿Quieres poner? espectacular. ¿Estás saliendo aire por la pajita ahí? ¿Estás?
Solo por ahí, no por los lados de los
Ok.
lados, okay? And then you can also, I have these in the car. I have them in my guitar case. I have them in the vocal booth. If you're in your car, you can go and you can read the road signs, right?
Estás en tu auto, podés leer los carteles de la autopista.
Sí,
Tiene
porque
sorbetes así en distintos puntos de la casa y en el auto.
por donde quiera.
Para
And that way, what happens when you're reading, you're changing modulation and the shape of your throat. So all this does, and a lot of the political people who are on a speaking tour, they'll use this as a reset because their voices get very tired.
Claro, mucha gente que habla mucho, por ejemplo, en campañas políticas. I would imagine teachers as well should do that. Maestras también.
Right. So there's that. Okay, that's a first little kind of a warm up that you can do.
Hey.
Right. The other thing is, many times where we wear our throats out is speaking more than singing.
Claro, que muchas veces a la garganta a uno se le cansa mucho más hablando que cantando.
See, so one of the other things that you can do is to raise the timbre of your voice slightly. So like a lot of times I find myself talking here and I have to remember to speak up here, right? A little higher, because like a bass wave is wide, right?
Claro, la onda de una frecuencia grave es más, es más ancha.
Sí. And a higher note and a higher range is a shorter one.
Y la onda aguda es más corta.
And so this is easier on your voice, speaking up a little higher than you normally would than speaking down here.
Que esto es, you're talking about, okay, what the exercise you're going to show us now or the exercise with the straw? ¿Estás hablando del ejercicio del sorbete?
Well, so there's the straw thing that you should do, right? Before you're going to do a warm-up, or during the day, or between shows, or whatever.
O durante el día, el ejercicio con el sorbete.
During the day, before you go to a gig, or you go to sing, if you have to speak just a little higher. Just a little. See what I'm saying?
Antes.
Yeah. So that you don't hurt your voice speaking to the audience, to the band members, whatever you've got to do. Right?
Ok, si tenés que hablar antes del show, si tenés que estar hablando con gente, tratar de hablar con un registro un poco más agudo de lo que es normal.
Sí.
Muy bueno.
And then a lot of times what I do is actual warm-ups that I do have to do with, they're kind of like based on the Seth Riggs Seth Riggs is a great vocal coach, and
un coach vocal.
See, and so some of the exercises that I do have to do with, first of all, being very gentle with your voice, right? And
algunos ejercicios tienen que ver con ser muy suave con tu voz.
Mm-hmm. And here's an example.
I hear the first part, but then it's silence. I see your lips moving. What happened there? ¿Qué pasa ahí?
So I'm doing it with I'm rolling my tongue, or I'm doing it with my lips. But either way, it's a gentle massaging feeling in the back of your throat. But I'm hitting
suave,
right,
de tu garganta.
And the intervals are ooh, right? And you start low, and then you work your way up a half step at a time. Ooh, but do it like this. If you feel any pain or discomfort, stop or come back to a lower key. And do this throughout the day, right?
Y haz eso durante el día, y si sentís un poco de molestia o de dolor, parás.
See,
Lógico.
and so this is just I'm giving you a week's worth of what it would take a week to show somebody, but very quickly things that somebody can do so that they go, I'm going to sing, or if they need to vocalize every day, do a little bit of that. I do it all day long. It aggravates everybody I'm around,
I think we have a problem, but it's not we really got the thing with Zoom. It has a filter, like a noise filter. So
right.
when we were doing this exercise, we could hear the beginning, but then it was silence. But Zoom tiene como un sistema de filtro y estuvo cortando. Escuchábamos la primera parte, pero después yo te veía mover la boca, pero había silencio. But we understood what it's all
interesting. About. Interesting. Well, the thing is to slowly massage your voice be very gentle and kind to your voice, right?
Es un masaje suave de tu voz.
That's right. Until and work your way up. And so when I get to the gig, there are times when I'll get right before I go on stage, I'm like, hey, I start opening up.
Excelente. Thank you, Jerry. Jerry, one last thing that I wanted to ask you is if you could tell us about the production of the record you did with songs from your father. Tu padre era un gran autor de canciones que yo conocí, y si nos pudieras contar un poco el álbum que produjiste y por último contarnos qué estás haciendo en Las Vegas en este momento, porque se están abriendo viajes ya y hay muchos argentinos que ya están empezando a ir a Estados Unidos de turismo, y bueno, yo le recomiendo a todos los no solo argentinos sino latinoamericanos que están escuchando este programa que vayan a Las Vegas. No pueden perderse la banda de Jerry Lopez. Entonces, si puedes contarnos un poco lo que fue el proyecto del disco que hiciste para tu papá y qué estás haciendo ahora en Las Vegas.
Okay. So my dad had written a lot of songs that we sang when we were little, cuando éramos chicos.
El padre compuso muchas canciones cuando ellos eran niños.
Right. And over the years, there were different artists like in Texas, in Tejano music, that would record my dad's songs.
Y en esos años hubo muchos artistas en Texas o de música tejana que grababan canciones del padre de Jerry.
Right, but I hadn't, and my brothers hadn't, right?
Pero él y sus hermanos, que son todos músicos, tampoco.
Right. So as a gift to my dad, I was just going to create this CD of his songs, and not a big deal. I was going to have a few printed up, for friends and family, but I contracted a friend of mine he's got 15 Grammys as a producer right now. And I went to him to produce the songs.
Y llamó a un amigo de él que ganó 15 Grammys, que es un productor, e hicieron este proyecto con canciones de tu padre.
Sí. Un regalo para mi papá. Y el productor se llama Gilbert Velázquez en San Antonio, Texas. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was for my father, because I had him involved at every step. And in fact, I used to have a video camera. I would turn it on in the studio, and then I would invite my dad in. I'd go, hey, Dad, so what do you think about this? And how should we do this, And he didn't know the camera was running, but I wanted to.
Andy lo llamaba a su padre y le hacía preguntas. And he didn't know you were filming. Y él no sabía.
He didn't know I have all of that. It's beautiful. And he'd come in the room and I'd go, so, how do you think we should do this and whatever? And so I had him involved, and it was like he had a second childhood from that. He se animó, he was just excited about it.
Tuvo como una segunda niñez el padre de él a través de este proyecto.
And it's funny because I've had a lot of my friends who told me, man, I wish I would have done that for my dad before he passed away, right?
Muchos amigos de él le decían,
right,
qué pena que yo no hice eso para mi padre antes.
Yeah, because a lot of us our parents were musicians or whatever, but it ended up being much more than what I thought it would be, and it ended up being on the charts in that genre of music for many
Estar en los
weeks.
charts en ese tipo de música. How do you describe that style of music? ¿Cómo describirías ese estilo de música?
Tex-Mex,
Tex-Mex.
Tejano.
Claro.
Son como polkas, pero con big band, rancheras, you know.
No tengo penas ningunas, solo me siento contento, por eso
Y yo voy a decir que nosotros dos produjimos juntos una canción de tu padre, uno de los hermanos de Jerry, Lenny Lopez, extraordinario cantante y percusionista también. Jerry y yo produjimos juntos un disco de Lenny Lopez en el cual hay una canción, No me vengas a llorar, del papá de Jerry.
Ahora sí vas a pagar. Ahora que te des perdida, con el alma entristecida, no me vengas a buscar. Si te ha dejado
Excelente
tu
canción.
amado,
Yeah.
Jerry, what's coming now for Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns, or for you as a producer in Las Vegas or in the States?
Right. I just got through co-writing a song. There's a producer out of Finland, and his name is Tommy Malm.
Hay un productor de Finlandia, Tommy Malm.
Yeah, and his last records, everybody, you know, David Foster, John Robinson, everybody in the world is on those records. And I was fortunate enough to be asked to co-write and perform on the last two records. You know, Bill Champlin,
Le pidió
Jay Gray,
coescribir algunas canciones.
yeah, Dean Parks, you know, everybody's on those records. So I just got through doing that. And right now, Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns, we've started playing again Monday nights, every Monday night.
Los lunes, todos los lunes. Where are you
Yes.
playing? In what place in Las Vegas?
It's called the Copa Club.
Copa Club.
Yeah. And in fact, we're going to do live stream videos the first Monday of every month. So
Están empezando a hacer live streaming. El próximo lunes van a hacer live stream del Copa Club.
sí,
¿En qué horario? Hora de Las Vegas.
sí, el primer lunes de cada mes.
Primer lunes de cada mes, ¿en qué horario de la hora de Las Vegas?
7:30 our time.
7:30 our time, son las 7:30 p.m., ¿sí? O sea que son las
Sí.
11:30 de los lunes de la noche para Buenos Aires,
Sí.
o para, sí, la Argentina.
Yeah.
Excelente, Jerry.
If they go to our website, right, which is www.santafeband.com.
www.santafeband.com. We're going to put that. Insert that.
Yeah, they'll find it there, and they can go in and watch these shows.
Excellent.
It's gonna be
Jerry,
good.
you've been extremely generous for your time. Very
Yeah, we could
for your
we
time.
we
Muy
could go
agradecido
for
por tu tiempo.
we could go for hours. Okay,
Sí, sí.
great to see you, and I want to let all your friends know that you were a gift to us, and I mean, you were obviously you had the talent and you had the ability, and you stepped up, and you always had huge ears, and you were willing to learn. You had the same thing that we have, which is we're like little kids about our music, right? And so, you know, we all had a great time playing with you. We've had some wonderful times on the road with Lorenzo Antonio and Sparks, and
We did
and all the
many-
right? We've had
Thank you
fun.
so much. I don't know if I'm going to translate what you just said. Voy a decir solamente que dijo cosas muy lindas sobre mí y que siempre te voy a estar extremadamente agradecido porque no solo aprendí contigo de música, sino aprendí contigo de la vida, aprendí a ser un director musical y cada vez que estoy al mando de algún proyecto musical, te tengo a ti en mi mente porque sos
Great.
un referente, Jerry.
Thank you,
are
Paul.
A big boss and a great human being.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Con ustedes, Jerry Lopez. Muchas gracias.
You've got the love, you've got the power. But you just don't understand. Girl, you've been charging by the hour for your love. I've tried to tell you how much I love you, still believing in romance.